registered for today's webinar, we'll make sure to hand out a recording for everyone. Good afternoon if you're on the East Coast. Good morning if you're out on the West Coast joining us. Appreciate you making the time to learn a little bit more about e-commerce that speaks JD Edwards, and to hear a little bit about smarter commerce experiences around how to help JD Edwards organizations launch B2B e-commerce without going through the major effort of replatforming their entire ERP or e-commerce, as well as leveraging middleware and avoiding all that, and what are some of the tangible benefits that are unlocked as a result of that. Just for some quick introductions, speaking is Jerry Vandale. I'm the sales director here at Smarter Commerce. We're also joined by Diego Fernandez, who's our director of product. Let me flash up a quick agenda for what our time together is going to look like, and then we'll dive right into covering our content. A good portion of today's time is going to be invested in an actual demo of the platform, an example of a platform that leverages that real-time connectivity to JD Edwards. But first, we'll talk about a very typical problem that IT leaders, marketing leaders face when they are interested in launching a B2B e-commerce platform. We'll cover kind of what I'll call the traditional approach, the mainstream approach, and why that approach typically breaks down. And then we'll talk about a different approach, a different mode, let's say. What are some of the real tangible benefits of real-time native integration to JD Edwards? And then we'll transition over to the live demo portion of our agenda. So with that said, let's go ahead and discuss this problem, what we're talking the problem here, in greater detail. And so this is kind of two slides here that describe the problem more completely. But the first part of this equation is that B2B buyers, that is your customers, expect e-commerce. What we're seeing more and more in the world of manufacturers, distributors, the world of B2B, let's say, is that customers are now expecting self-service ordering platforms. They're expecting being able to log online, check pricing, check tracking, and so on. However, even though they experience, or rather expect, a reliable and trustworthy digital experience, the data shows that sometimes the experience doesn't really meet that. Hopefully, the audience here, kind of understands, hey, many B2B buyers kind of prefer to buy online. There's a great report called the B2B Buyer Report for 2025 that was released by Sapio Research, where they went out and talked to 750 B2B leaders around the world. These are your customers, organizations that are purchasing from your company. And 73% of them indicated that they actually prefer buying online, that is through digital channels, versus a traditional pick up the phone or send an email order. Of those same 750 B2B buyers, 85% of them, like I mentioned earlier, experience some kind of frustration when buying online. And so we see this interesting split in the experience. These B2B buyers prefer to buy online. That's actually what they want to do. And yet most of them experience some level of frustration through those digital channels. I think probably the most alarming figure on here, and really what should be perking the ears and demanding the attention of IT leaders, marketing leaders across the board, is that last figure, where the same research indicated those 750 B2B buyers, they said, hey, 75% of us would actually switch to a supplier who offered a better online experience. Meaning, if they've got two suppliers that they work with and both of them sell the same product, if one supplier is providing a better online platform, a better self-service experience, they would actually consider switching suppliers and working with them solely based off of that, which is really astounding. Normally, that kind of switch would come around because of price, better terms, flexibility, service. And yet, again, the world that we live in, folks are willing to make that switch because of a better online experience. What you see in the data out there, and maybe what you've experience when you talk to your own customers, is that nowadays customers once again expect a reliable, trustworthy digital experience. Now, this is not a problem per se, but it can become a problem for B2B organizations that don't have any kind of digital experience platform. They don't have any customer portal, no web store for their B2B customers, no plans really of e-commerce. It's just not something that the business is really concerned about, and they have no strategic interest in moving in that direction. This becomes a problem when you begin realizing that your competitors are moving in that direction and very likely already have some level of platform in place. Now, for the specific problem we're chatting about today, the problem is not so much that B2B buyers expect an e-commerce experience, but instead that your main system of record is not built to be an e-commerce platform. And so obviously, we work in the JD Edwards space. Most of our audience on the webinar probably is running JD Edwards EnterpriseOne as their ERP. And so you've got this tension between the need for an e-commerce platform and yet the system of record for your back end, where you store all of your inventory information, order history, invoices, your pricing, your reporting, your customer master information, even your accounting books, right? All of your finances and accounting. All of that natively resides within JD Edwards EnterpriseOne, within JDE today. And so that's where the problem occurs, right? Where folks want to move in the direction of e-commerce, and yet they have a system of record that is obviously not an e-commerce platform. And so folks, organizations will typically take what I call the traditional approach to solve for that gap. And that traditional approach is as follows. The common path is that organizations will kind of just bolt on a generic e-commerce platform. Now, there's great generic e-commerce platforms. We can call them, mainstream platforms, either names that are familiar, likely to many of the folks on today's webinar. Platforms like Shopify, like Magento, which is now Adobe Commerce, even a Salesforce Commerce, BigCommerce, Optimizely, the list goes on. There's a lot of great e-commerce platforms. And so what B2B organizations that are running JD Edwards will do is that they'll set up this e-commerce platform and they'll do one of two things. They will be forced to either to duplicate all of their customer, product, payment, pricing, order, collection information on this e-commerce platform, or they will go ahead and leverage some kind of middleware, custom APIs, maybe batch jobs or data sync jobs that'll run periodically between the e-commerce platform and JD Edwards EnterpriseOne. Because the B2B customer experience, as we pointed out earlier, depends heavily on a single source of truth. It depends heavily on the customer's ability to see pricing that is accurate and trustworthy, information about the products, inventory, so on and so forth. There's no doubt that B2B customers, when they experience a B2B e-commerce platform, they want to be able to have access to this information. And so whether you integrate to your ERP to some extent is not really the question. The better question to ask is how, because it's what customers expect. And again, the traditional approach kind of takes this, what we'll just call the common path, which is where you're manually building out this integration between E1 and your e-commerce platform. Now, as you may detect, this what we'll call the common path should have some warning signs associated with it, right? If you bolt on a generic e-commerce platform, it's going to require that middleware, custom API, and a lot of times organizations will end up with kind of a mystery box of development of code that only a few people know how that really works. It's difficult to get an organization to support that custom integration, and there's a whole set of hidden costs that come alongside that. And a lot of times, folks, when they purchase an e-commerce platform, they think to themselves, hey, we're going to go with XYZ vendor. They're a leader in the e-commerce space. Everybody knows their name. Maybe we have some folks in the organization that already work with XYZ platform. And so it feels like a safe decision. What they don't realize is that all of this middleware, the custom development, the APIs that your team has to discover, even the batch jobs that you're going to be running should come with a warning sign. The reality is that a lot of this development actually drives hidden cost. Well, what do you mean hidden costs? Well, some examples would be you've got a lag in the synchronization. Imagine a customer that logs onto the B2B e-commerce platform in the morning, places a large order, they receive a certain price that they then approve, they had approved. And then later that day, they get a phone call from the customer service telling them that, hey, you place an order before our pricing updated. It updates every day at 11 a.m. We have to run a batch job between our ERP and the e-commerce platform to have pricing refresh. and the order that you placed this morning is actually priced incorrectly. And so, we'll revise that cost for you, but now the customer has totally lost trust in that platform because of that inconsistency. Some other examples are, many times having this manual integration or middleware in place requires a massive duplication of data, whether it's managing two price books, inventory at the ERP level, inventory at the e-commerce level. You've almost got a replatforming of your ERP occurring at the e-commerce level because the requirements of a B2B customer are so complex. They require that level of information at the e-commerce level. Some other examples of hidden cost result in, for example, maintaining this integration. If you've spent, several $100,000, and that's not a you know, a made up number. We have many customers that have unfortunately spent that amount of money before moving to a real-time integrated solution. But in that instance, they'll spend lots of money to kind of develop this custom integration, only to find out that after they launch with the platform, often delayed, often costing much more than what they anticipated, they will be stuck with maintaining all of that custom code. And in some cases I can think off the top of my head, they have to hire one, two, or three developers full time just to maintain the complexity of that custom integration. Upgrades are another item of concern, right? Hidden cost when going this traditional approach, this common path. And when we say upgrades, we mean JD Edwards EnterpriseOne updates, right? Hopefully you guys are doing upgrades every year, every other year. Every time you've got this upgrade, the integration between e-commerce and JD Edwards EnterpriseOne needs to be revalidated. Those upgrades can be kind of a brittle process because if nobody understands how the code works, or if it's lots of custom code, every time you do a JD Edwards upgrade, it's going to be a concern. It's going to be a driver of business cost. And at the end of the day, more than the hidden cost, this actually results in real consequences for your customers. Some examples of these I kind of alluded, right? Where a customer places an order in the beginning of the day, they get a phone call from customer service later in the day telling them, hey, the pricing was actually wrong. Again, that customer's trust in that platform is going to drop to zero, and it's very hard for them to adopt the platform after that negative experience. The result is decreased adoption of your B2B e-commerce platform, and you're kind of back to where you started, right? Where your customers are picking up the phone and sending you emails because they don't want to run the risk of an inconsistent integration. Some other examples of the consequences of taking this, bolt-on generic e-commerce path would be around inventory. Same kind of situation. A customer is going to place a big order. It's a strategic move for them. They've got a big project coming up. They place the order. The inventory shows available online, and then they get a call from customer service explaining to them that the inventory was not available. Super disappointing. Again, the customer's trust in the platform decreases significantly. What about credit terms? If the customer has, certain credit terms negotiated, and they paid a large invoice that morning in order to free up some credit to then make a purchase in the afternoon, but that batch or that synchronization hasn't yet occurred, the customer is confused and frustrated. They need to place an order. They know they placed they paid the invoice earlier in the day. They cleared that up with AR, but now they still don't have their credit freed up. That can be a nightmare. More than that, the actual consequences are not just to the customer experience, but also to your IT team or even your marketing team, whoever it is that has to manage the mapping of that integration. It can be very complex, and it can create all kinds of manual tasks and workarounds that your team has to accommodate for because of a lack of a real-time, pre-built native integration. So, again, a lot of B2B organizations kind of taking this path, and they really should understand that integrating to JD Edwards is a whole lot easier to say than to actually do. And for the audience that's joining us, if you are considering a B2B e-commerce platform, a project in that domain, you can very simply go to, any one of the AI agents and describe it to, or rather prompt it to estimate what would it take to integrate a full integration, a native integration to JD Edwards between any leading e-commerce platform that you select and EnterpriseOne. And it'll create a breakdown for you. And I've kind of run this a few times. Customers have done this a few times, and they'll say that, yeah, the estimated hours come back, anywhere between 800 hours to 2,000 hours worth of effort. And that's not an unrealistic range. We've talked to other JD Edwards consultancy organizations that are not necessarily partnered with Smarter Commerce, and that's what they estimate. If you want a complete native integration to JD Edwards, that's what it takes. And so doing a custom integration using a middleware might might simplify some things using a middleware, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be custom integration involved, and that has a whole slew of hidden costs that organizations, sometimes leaderships, just not aware of. They don't accommodate for, which at the end of the day drives real consequences, not just for your experience, right? The customer experience suffers, but in addition to that, the IT team, the marketing team is stuck with a tons of manual work, a lot of technical debt, and working around a lot of those issues. Now, of course, organizations take a different model, what we're going to call the JD Edwards native digital commerce. And this is an e-commerce platform that instead of relying on middleware or custom code to integrate to JD Edwards, has what we call a native integration to JD Edwards, so that it has a real-time and reliable data flow between E1 and the e-commerce platform, so that when customers log in, view the platform, experience the back end of the platform, meaning they've logged in and they're looking at pricing and inventory and so on. What they see is exactly what's inside of E1. Now, what exactly does native mean? When we talk about JD Edwards native integration, without getting too technical, basically what we mean is that Smarter Commerce is integrated on a real-time basis at a technical level. Okay, so what native integration means is that the integration between the e-commerce platform and their ERP is technically identical to those same functions being completed within JD Edwards itself. So that when a customer checks pricing, it's running the same business functions, logic, it's pinging the same database that JD Edwards is using. Now, that's the core concept of what we call the JD Edwards native digital commerce approach. There's no replication. You don't have to duplicate logic. You don't have to duplicate data. This pricing, customer, payment, reporting, order information doesn't live in the ERP and then live in the e-commerce level. There's only one layer of data, one layer of logic. Of course, the e-commerce platform will always provide more content management capabilities, e-commerce and experience level capabilities. But at the end of the day, the system of record that is JD Edwards today in your system remains the system of record. What this does is a few powerful things. For your IT team, it really eliminates the biggest failure points that we saw in some of our early slides, right? Where you have synchronization delays, latency, double maintaining of data at the e-commerce and at the ERP level. And more than a technical benefit for your IT folks, this native JD Edwards digital commerce approach is extremely helpful for customers. At the end of the day, the reason why you're launching a B2B e-commerce platform is to better service your customers, right? And you're trying to do that in a way that doesn't create more manual work for your organization. That makes sense. But at the end of the day, what you're unlocking with real-time and native integration is that when your customers log in to check something, they're always going to see the right status for their order, because it's coming directly from JD Edwards. They're going to see the right shipping and tracking information. They can see accurately, right, at the point of order, live credit checks before the order is being submitted, so that when they're building an order and they're about to hit confirm order or place order, there's never any doubt in the mind of the customer that that inventory is available, the pricing is available, that they have credit available to make that purchase, so on and so forth. And then, of course, inventory availability is also a big item in the world of e-commerce. If a customer sees that there's 500 widgets and they want to buy all 500 of those widgets, they need to have absolute certainty that those are indeed available. So a real-time native integration with JD Edwards allows for that inventory availability without having a separate cache layer or middleware or delay in the synchronization of that data. And that's what folks, that's what we got to realize, right? Again, more than advocating for technical simplicity here, what we're trying to advocate for at Smarter Commerce is to think of the customer experience first. Ultimately, your customers, your B2B customers, they're already placing orders from you today. And the way that they're doing it is, more than likely less efficient than if they were to self-service themselves through an e-commerce portal. They're picking up a phone and talking with someone for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, for kind of a routine order placement. Maybe they're sending an email and you have to go back and forth with the customer service to see what's the price and change the price and experiment with this and what about this option and so on and so forth. It's just not an efficient way of taking orders. And so for many B2B organizations, launching an e-commerce platform is all about simplifying the customer experience, about automating a lot of those manual tasks, and for the customer themselves, if they begin using a platform that is not natively integrated with the ERP, they're going to get inconsistent data. It's going to be an incomplete experience. And again, the adoption will suffer. Now, let's talk real quickly about Smarter Commerce before we kind of dive into the demo. Our hope is that you see the power of native integration. The world has no shortage of great e-commerce platforms, even B2B e-commerce platforms. But what you very rarely find, in fact, Smarter Commerce is really the only name in the game, is that when it comes to B2B e-commerce platforms that leverage JD Edwards as the single source of truth, that's what Smarter Commerce has done for since the early 2000s. Now, as an organization, we have a very long history of working with JD Edwards, over 30 years of JD Edwards success. I believe we're at 35 years at this point. We've completed well over 500 projects, and those are both implementation projects of JD Edwards in the 90s. And then in the early 2000s, we pivoted to begin building this family of solutions called Smarter Commerce. It's an organization. We're based in Miami. And like I said earlier, for 20, 26 years, what we've been doing is helping JD Edwards organizations grow by launching successful projects in the space of e-commerce. Here's a quick snapshot of some of our customers. I know some of our customers have joined today's webinar. A special, thank you for joining us, and of course for being part of our customer family. Every single one of our customers is running JD Edwards EnterpriseOne. It's the only ERP that we work with natively out of the box. It's our bread and butter. And we realize that the JD Edwards, community of organizations and customers needs a reliable, custom fit for JDE platform that can help them get to the next level to service their customers through digital channels. If we ask a basic question of what is Smarter Commerce, we know the who. We just talked about that. What is Smarter Commerce? It's really a family of solutions. We have a payment processing solution if you have any credit card needs, if you're accepting credit cards as a form of payment and you want to enable that process through an integrated process into JD Edwards. Of course, the topic of today's discussion is our e-commerce platform, which is a JD Edwards native integrated platform. We also have a point of sale or retail platform, again, using JD Edwards as that single source of truth. We also have a connector to the Avalara AvaTax sales tax compliance platform and a call center management solution. We're about to see our e-commerce platform here in a couple of minutes. But before that, I want to provide a brief conceptual overview of what exactly that is. So Smarter Commerce e-commerce is a pre-integrated with JD Edwards EnterpriseOne B2B e-commerce platform. It means we're using JD Edwards as that single source of truth from day one. The minute that we install as an application software update, a few paper enhancements in your environment, it means we have access to all of the JD Edwards data. It means we have access to your JD Edwards EnterpriseOne logic. And in many cases, we can work with some of the customizations or enhancements that you have in your own environment. Of course, if you're kind of going that generic or traditional route of using an e-commerce platform that's not integrated, much of that logic of those enhancements would have to be recreated or worked around at the e-commerce level. Because of our pre-integration, we can leverage that from day one. Like any B2B e-commerce platform, Smarter Commerce has an extensive set of capabilities. The minute a customer logs in, they're going to be seeing customer-specific pricing coming directly from JD Edwards Advanced Pricing. As they build their order, we're running in memory the JD Edwards applications that are building that order. And then, of course, if you have any basket repricing situations, that'll be visible at the order cart level. That's the level of depth of integration that we have with JD Edwards. If your customers are assigned certain catalogs so that when they log in, they only have access to buy X number of product lines or certain products, you can control all of that. We like to say that smarter commerce is multi-enabled, meaning multi-language, multi-currency, multi-company, multi-country. If I didn't mention that already, it helps global customers reach their customers at a global level. I can think of one customer that approached us based out of Italy, and they wanted to launch a dealer portal all across the EU and then bring that same dealer portal over to the United States. And they were able to do that with Smarter Commerce. Frankly, most of the project driven by their own efforts because they learned the platform, because they're very familiar with JD Edwards, they're already familiar with many of the concepts and the functionality and configuration options within Smarter Commerce. And after we helped them launch with the first country, they began rolling this dealer portal out to the second and third and fourth and fifth country. I think they're in over 10 countries at this point. Smarter Commerce also works with JD Edwards quoting capabilities so that a customer online can build a quote, submit a quote. We have enterprise search capabilities in case your customers find it more helpful to search for products, if they don't already know the part numbers, things of that nature. Of course, Smarter Commerce, integrates with a great variety of third-party applications, whether it's payment providers, gateways, search tools, reviews tools, loyalty tools. I mean, the list kind of continues depending on what customers need. As you can imagine, after doing this for 25 years, customers integrate with all kinds of third-party applications. And the last point on this slide I want to stress, that is to say, when somebody thinks about B2B e-commerce, sometimes they think of a really clunky, difficult to use platform. But the reality is that most B2B e-commerce platforms nowadays actually have a very consumer-like intuitive experience. And that's the way that Smarter Commerce is built. As you'll see in just a couple of minutes, when Diego, our director of product, takes over and handles an actual demonstration of the software, it's going to feel very familiar to anybody who's spent any time on any e-commerce platform. The layout's going to feel intuitive. And that's important because when you launch an e-commerce platform to your customers, you don't want to have to sit there and train them on how to use this platform. It should be intuitive. Everybody on this webinar has been using e-commerce platforms probably for the last 10 years. So the fact that we have an intuitive layout, I think, is a big factor for many organizations. All right. With that said, we'll go ahead and transition to the demo portion of our agenda. We've got about a 25-minute demo prepared for the group. One thing that I did want to stress before we continued here is, and I actually don't know if we've got our questions set up, but if you do have any questions or any comments, you should have the ability to chat our host team and our panelists. And so I'll be on there for the remainder of our webinar. If you have any questions, reach out. If you have any insight, or if your team is planning a B2B e-commerce strategic project over the next few months, reach out. We'd love to learn more about it. But if you have any questions or comments, go ahead and just type it into the chat box here on Zoom during the rest of our time together. And with that said, I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. And Diego, you should be able to take over. And what we're going to be seeing, if you see from the last slide, there is basically Diego working in a demo environment, a demo site of ours called Smarter Tech. It's kind of branded after a hardware store, kind of a B2B hardware store type situation. And he's going to run through a series of scenarios that an imaginary B2B buyer would have, all the while integrating on a real-time basis to the back end of a demo environment of JD Edwards EnterpriseOne. So with that said, Diego, we're looking at your screen, and I think we're good to get going.
Thank you, Jerry, and welcome to everyone on the webinar. As Jerry mentioned, I've gone ahead and shared my desktop here. And what you're looking at right now is a demonstration company that we have set up here, integrated real-time with the JD Edwards 9.2 solution. Now, we do support all of the 9s of JD Edwards, 9.0, 9.1, 9.2, all the way up to JD Edwards 9.26. What are we going to be doing over the next few minutes is to gain an understanding first of the level of integration. It's important to understand that the single source of the truth is JD Edwards. So at the moment that a buyer comes to the site and wants to sign in with their credentials, their email, their customer account, whatever it is that you define as the username and their password that they control, it immediately will then validate their credentials. And if all is good, it'll go ahead and allow them to log in to the solution. And at this time, they're now looking at data coming from JD Edwards. What are they looking at? Well, we drop them onto what we call a dashboard. A dashboard is a collection of different views of information. So the most recent sales orders that they placed, along with the sales order number and purchase order number. Maybe they placed a blanket order recently, or they've placed, they want to look at most recent invoice history, or they want to see what's open. Obviously, this is a little dated data. So everything is past due here in our demonstration environment. Or maybe they want to make a scheduled payment against some of the invoices and so on. Or they want to interact with or control some of their ship to locations in your address book and information within your address book if you allow them to. Or they want to add some things to their payment wallet. These are, their cards on file or their bank accounts on file in order to make payments and process payments when they place orders. Or they want to interact with other contacts in their organization, or they just want to see some graphical information such as account summary, what do they owe you, what their credit limit. All of this data coming real time from JD Edwards. As you make transactions, as you're processing information, this is being refreshed immediately because as soon as they refresh their screen, new data coming from JD Edwards is presented. And as you can see, we have capabilities across the entire solution integrated real time with the JD Edwards backend ERP, whether it be entering and creation of quotes. We have capabilities in that area, whether it be converting those quotes and accepting them and converting them into a sales order. We have capabilities, or the creation of returns and RMAs. We have capabilities. Or if I want to set up auto pay rules so that I can stay current as a customer and make payments against invoices, we have capabilities. And along with obviously the more common viewing of invoice history or order history coming from JD Edwards and then clicking in. So all of these capabilities integrated real time with your JD Edwards solution to allow your customers to truly self-service themselves, to view the information real time and be able to, at a moment's notice, know the status for an order, or know the status of a payment, whatever it is that they're looking for. But obviously the most common thing that they're coming to do is to shop, to buy product from you. So we have a fully integrated capability of allowing you to create as many catalogs of products and representing yourselves as you desire. So here is a catalog of the different tools that we sell, welding equipment, safety gear, construction materials, and so on and so forth. This is one way that, one catalog of view. We have another one where it's just shopping by the different brands. And we even have another one of what's called exploded views, and we'll touch on that in just a moment. But it allows your customers to easily and quickly drill down within a specific category of products that you've loaded up and really have extended a lot of the information to the e-commerce solution to really graphically present sort of that B2C feel, but to a B2B buyer so that they can easily find that product, search it, click into it, and get what they need, whether it's just to check pricing on a product or check availability on a product, or see some information. Maybe they need some specifications to see if it matches what they need, or maybe they just need to come and get some instructional manuals and download those things, or data safety sheets. So we extend the information that is provided to us from your JD Edwards solution. JD Edwards will give us the pricing. JD Edwards will give us whether or not it's in stock. Maybe it's not in stock in one location and I want to go see if I can pick it up at another location or have it shipped from another location. You define all the branch plans that are available to the website that the user can then look to see if it's in stock in that branch plant and be able to buy from that branch plant directly if they desire. Or maybe it's just coming to see the product. They want to know the pricing of that specific product. Now, here is where it becomes interesting. Obviously here, how do we do it? Well, user logs in. That user is tied to a customer number within your JD Edwards. That customer number and ship to location is then passed to the JD Edwards pricing edit line so that then the JD Edwards solution will calculate that exact price, whether it's just base pricing, advanced pricing, contract pricing, however it is, whatever it is you have configured. We support all aspects of your JD Edwards solution and your pricing engine. And based on that customer, then the price is presented for that set of products or product to the end customer. So here I am representing a customer number 4243. And as you can see, I pay $229.50 for this product. But in a separate browser, I'm going to also log in, but as a completely different customer. And for this, I'm going to go to that same product and we'll see how for this customer, they have additional pricing discount rules that kick in. So here, if I go in and I drill into that catalog of products the same way I did with the other customer, I can see that this customer pays $222.62. Self-service means more than just being able to log on. Self-service means seeing your information real time, real availability, my pricing, what it is that I pay for it. So this customer gets pricing discounts, gets volume level discounts. As you can see here, they pay $220.39 if they buy 2 or more, $215.94 if they buy 3 or more. And in addition to that, they see a lot of this additional information to help them make the right choice, whether it's seeing some features about the product, some marketing information, specifications, resources, and so on. We've integrated content with commerce so that your users will have confidence in what they're seeing, have confidence that when they place that order, they're getting the correct price of what they're supposed to pay, and they know that it's in stock and when they will receive it, when it'll be shipped, and how I want it shipped, and so on. So as you can see, a user can easily work with the system, self-service themselves, so find pricing from coming directly from Edwards, whether it be for a single product, maybe an each, or if you have multiple units of measure and you sell those units, those products in different units of measure. Here, I switched it to one case and I paid $9.18 for a case. But how many come in a case? Well, again, we read the JD Edwards unit of measure conversion to present that information to the user so that they know exactly how much they're getting in the pack size of that specific unit of measure. Whether it's just 1 unit of measure conversion or 5, we list it out for them so that they can then select the right unit of measure that they desire and get the right pack size that they require. As you can see, and as Jerry mentioned, we support multi-currency scenarios. So if we have international customers where the site can work in and pay in British pounds or US dollars or Canadian dollars. If you're a worldwide organization and your JD Edwards supports that, then we can support that also because we're getting all that information real time from your JD Edwards. Now, as I mentioned, we not only have catalogs, but what is the main way customers come to find product is by typing in keywords. They start typing in a specific set of keywords. We start giving them search suggestions, we send product suggestions, all coming from our enterprise level search that searches the entire solution, searches your JD Edwards data, and then presents all of that information to the user so that they can find what they're looking for with just a few clicks, whether it's entering of a specific descriptor or if they are looking for a particular maybe UPC number right off the box and they've typed that in, they can type in their UPC, they can type in their serial number. If you have that in Edwards, we can index that, they can key it in, and then they can find their specific product that they're working with. Maybe they bought a generator in the past, such as this. They typed in their UPC, they found the exact generator that they bought, but they're looking for a replacement part. Well, we also sell replacement parts for that generator, and we can go and see all of the replacement parts, bill of materials list that I have associated to this generator. And right from here, the user can click on a specific area of that. Maybe they're looking for the handle, boom, find the product that fits what exactly the end product that I've purchased and be able to add that to my cart easily and quickly for the price that I am supposed to pay. Now I have it in my cart, and now I can go ahead and shop for other products that may be of need. Or maybe that's all I need. Well, okay, go to my shopping cart, see if there's, I have everything. Do I have any promotion codes that work with advanced pricing to maybe give me some promo discounts that I've configured within the advanced pricing? But really all I want to do here is, step right through and purchase what I need. Here I have it. I can see my shipping addresses, these different addresses coming from JD Edwards through related addresses. The ability to view all of those addresses that I have related to my address book, my bill to, my different ship to, so that I can select exactly where I want this to be shipped. Or if I need to do a one-time drop ship, to another address, I can do that. Or maybe I'm near a warehouse and all I want to do is buy it online, but place the order to be picked up at a nearby warehouse. I can do that. Or maybe it's a new location and I want to add it to the address book. We can do that. Whatever it is that you want to allow your customers to do, including not just picking their shipping location, but how they want it shipped. Maybe they want it, next day air, or maybe they want it ground, whatever it is, and whatever methods that you offer, we have the ability to be able to communicate that to the user so that they can select exactly what they need, if they need it urgently or not, and then price the product and the order appropriately so that they know exactly what they're going to pay. They can then go through and enter a PO number if they want to go into the JD Edwards system and then continue to payment. And if this customer has terms with you, credit limit and terms, then they can go ahead and place it against those credit limit and terms and place that order. But if it's a customer, if they want to just prepay or pay with an alternative payment type, we also have full integration with alternative payment types, whether it be credit cards on file, or other payment types. And we have integration to be able to, surcharge those credit cards if you want to configure that and surcharge the credit card because they're utilizing a credit card up front and you want to pass through some of your merchant fees. So here I'm entering in a test credit card and card security code, and I'll go ahead and apply, which validates my card that I've just entered, and be able to place that order quickly and simple right into JD Edwards. So as easy as that, I did found the product. I went into my original product that I bought based on my UPC number. I found the replacement handle through the parts list. I added it to my shopping cart, checked out, paid, and shipped it to my house, and I am done. And then I can move on to the next thing that I need to do. This order, I get an order confirmation. I get an email confirming this as part of the solution. But if I enter here into my backend JD Edwards, that we're tied to on a real-time basis where this information is coming to, that order is already in JD Edwards. That order has been processed in using the same business logic and business functions of JD Edwards. The same way JD Edwards processes orders through your JD Edwards applications, we run these applications in memory and place and process the orders in memory through a capability that JD Edwards has. And what that allows us to do is to follow and maintain consistency of the business rules throughout the solution. So here the order's in place, and now it can go straight to your warehouse to be picked, packed, and shipped and put and sent out the door without any human ever having to touch this order. It can just go in right from the website to the warehouse and then process. As simple as that. But a lot of times customers know, especially the B2B customers, what they want to buy. So what do? Well, maybe they generated a PO right out of their system. They have a purchase order that they've generated out of their ERP system. And instead of mailing it in or emailing it in to your call center, all they have to do is log into the site, go to Quick Order, and right through Quick Order, I can import my PO, select it from my computer here, and import that PO. By doing that, we take that PO and we send it through our AI services, which then convert that PO into a workable XML document that we can then import directly into the website and then into your JD Edwards. So here we're converting the purchase that PO, whether it has 5 lines, 50 lines, 100 lines. We have customers that are importing orders of 300, 400 lines, either through a CSV Excel form document or through a PDF. We take that, we convert it, we compare the PO prices to the prices that are calculated by Edwards. And then all the user has to do once they validated is click add and checkout, which allows them to process their order, get whatever additional order level discounts may kick in, be able to select where they want to ship it and timing of that order, and really process that order immediately so that with just a few clicks, I've generated my PO out of my ERP, I've imported that PO, I've validated all of the prices match between my PO and what is calculated by your JD Edwards. Here is the ship to address that got pulled in from the purchase order, some comments that were pulled in from the purchase order, the PO number, again, coming from the purchase order. And at this point, all I have to do is walk through and say, well, how do I want to pay for this? I want to place it on account against terms and credit limit. It's calculated all of my products, whatever freight that had calculated as part of my freight engine and delivery fees. And if there's any sales tax involved based on tax calculations that are supported by JD Edwards, whether it be standard tax tables within JD Edwards, Vertex, or the Avalara cloud-based tax engine that we support as part of our solution. So here, I'm going to go ahead and place the order. It's been validated. And as you can see, with just a few clicks, I was able to take that PDF, import it in, run it through an AI service that gave me the order, put it into the order grid, allow me to validate my information to make sure it's accurate, and now process it and place it right into Edwards. And here I can go back to my JD Edwards, re-inquire, and there is the order, fully in. Simple as that, just a few clicks. I, as a user, came to the site and was able to complete that. That's the beauty of our solution. That's the beauty of integration. It allows me to easily and quickly do what I need to do as a user, not just be able to place orders, but see order history if I need to drill into a specific order, download invoice PDFs if I need to do that. As you can see here, I can see different orders that have been placed over the last 180 days. If I want to go back further, I can search on a particular order number, or I can just drill into an order detail that's been placed previously to see the status of those order lines, to see if they've been shipped or not. Do they have tracking numbers that I can click into? All of those are capabilities that are available through our solution. Or maybe they just want to come here to go ahead and repurchase, place the exact same order again. With just one click, I can find a previous order placed and repeat it if I'm a repeat buyer, or I need to return some product off of an order that came either damaged or maybe I over ordered and I want to return some of the product. We can do that through here. Or I want to convert that order into a quote to see if I can get more pricing if I add more things. So a lot of tools available to your customer community to be able to work with you on a self-service basis without having to get onto a phone and go back and forth with a call center rep. But here they're able to just take care of themselves across the board, whether it be looking for historical information or to be easily and quickly be able to find and place orders. But we go beyond that. We've integrated our solution with AI services that allow customers to take those POs and again, convert them directly within the site and place orders quickly and easily. Or maybe the customer is just coming to the site and they need to work with an AI agent, an automated agent that can answer questions to the user so that they can type in whatever question they have. Maybe they're looking for a replacement handle for their generator. It broke, they can't find it, or they want to know if they sell replacement parts. They can key that in. The AI agent will help them, find what they're looking for, give them guidance as to where to find it, and even direct them directly to that page or to that location of what they're looking for so that they can go ahead and purchase exactly what it is that they need. So all of those capabilities available to the user to be able to easily and quickly find what it is that they're looking for, find their replacement product, and be able to purchase it. So easy as that, the user can take advantage of those capabilities, whether it be searching, order history, whatever it is. But the key point that we're trying to make here is single source of the truth, meaning your JD Edwards. Not replication of data back and forth, not synchronization of pricing, reducing of errors. Have the customer gain confidence in your system because what they're seeing online is the exact same information that your call center representative or your salesperson will tell them if they look in your JD Edwards system, because that is the single source of the truth. So we have capabilities that span all of those features and that level of integration. I know we're coming up to time here. Again, this was just a glimpse of what we can offer with our solution, the real-time integration, and tons of functionality. If you're interested and you want to dive deeper as to all of the capabilities, because there's many things that we haven't touched on that we have to offer, from buying perspective, from requesting of access to the solution, from buyer approvals, security concerns, all of that, multi-language and all of those capabilities, please contact us and we can do really a one-on-one demo of the solution and dive into your requirements so that you can see how we can handle it and what we have to offer. So at this point, I'm going to stop my presentation here and pass it back to Jerry for final comments or questions.
Yeah, thank you, Diego, for walking us through that really helpful demo. That being said, for the rest of the audience that's with us, Hey, if you have any additional questions, we'll be reaching out to all the attendees and folks that registered. We'll be handling out the actual recording of the session. We appreciate your time and hope that you have a great rest of the day. Take care, everybody.